It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
It's the Real Estate Breakfast, yes, for another weekend as we continue to put the real estate news stories under the microscope for you, and got another busy Saturday morning property show coming up where we're taking you to Melbourne in just a moment. Yes, understanding the Australian property market, it starts right here. A Saturday morning, July the 4th. And good morning to you, Jenna. Thank you so much for sending through your email. You are a first-time home buyer in Brisbane. You say that you and your partner, this is pretty impressive. You're in your 20s and you've been saving since you were 18 years of age for a property. You say that you don't have either sets of parents that can help you out, so it is just you and your partner. This is the interesting piece. You say that you're on the threshold of making the numbers work, but you stepped back last month, you and your partner. You decided that the financial risk and the stress isn't worth you taking the plunge into the unknown. Even, you say, with your knowledge of digesting all of the information, it is not enough. We have been focusing on the stress for too long with zero result. Well, I think you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice there, Jenna, because you have done something. It's not zero result because you've saved this deposit money. So well done. That is a very, very important piece of the jigsaw puzzle. You say that you live with another couple, friends of yours, so renting is very manageable in Brisbane. And you say that maybe if the prices were to move down, you could reassess it. Well, thank you once again for sending through that email and for listening. You are not alone. The wild card, as I keep saying, is Trump and the Iranian war. This has probably got some time left in it, so it's not going to end overnight. It's just one of the many things you are having to face, but keep on going. Don't give up. And it doesn't sound like you are, so keep us in touch and let us know what happens next, particularly towards next year. Now, if you've got a similar story, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. The email address, myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Let's take you to Melbourne right now. We're going to catch up with Vincent Calderone. He is from Hodges Real Estate. You are a bit of a newbie. Well, you've been in the industry for a couple of years. This will be interesting, just getting some of your thoughts here. New to the industry, you were a touring DJ. This sounds pretty interesting. At some point you decided, I've had enough travel, let's get into real estate, and you said that your wife is a real estate agent, so everything lined up for you.
Hi Craig, thanks for having me on the show. Yes, I was a touring DJ since I was 18 till 25, 26, and my wife was always in real estate, and yeah, it's an easy transition, I think.
What sort of a life was that as a DJ around the country? Because I guess you're in party mode, aren't you?
It was absolutely crazy. It was 6 months in the country, 6 months out of the country for many, many years. We had different bases in Europe and Asia. It was unreal. The people skills were really kind of built there, and, reading different situations, because everyone would always want to take you out for dinner and, have conversations and do stuff like that. So it was a very demanding lifestyle, but so much fun.
Whereabouts would you travel offshore to?
So we'd live in all places, Belfast for 3 months of the year minimum, 3 to 6 months. Base ourselves out of there and fly in and out of all the different European countries, Spain, Germany, Greece, typically those party kind of areas. Head off to kind of the Philippines a fair bit, South Africa a few times as well, which was interesting.
Wow, touring all over the world. And, it's not like you've got to worry about the language. DJing is all about the music.
Yeah, no, it's pretty universal. So
yes.
There was no worries about singing or anything like that.
Good stuff. So now you're working with your wife in real estate there in Melbourne. Let's have a look at Caulfield North, because while much of Melbourne is seeing softer auction results, last weekend Caulfield North achieved a remarkable, as it was reported, 100% auction success rate. Now, it shows that buyers are still willing to compete strongly for quality homes, especially in these tightly held premium premium locations. What makes the suburb of Caulfield North, which is an area that you represent, so resilient when other markets are slowing?
It's right on the cusp of Armidale, which is top 3 suburb, say, in Victoria as well. There's a lot of public transport around. Young professionals really love that pocket. It's just far enough out of, say, really, really busy inner city areas, but still plenty of access to the city, which is essentially where a lot of these young professionals are working.
Yeah, so location piece, this is pretty important, isn't it? And location has become even more important than price in today's property market. Probably you're seeing that firsthand where you are.
Yeah, I think, we call a spade. The bit of retraction in property prices naturally has caused people to sit back and go, well, I might be able to afford Caulfield North now, as opposed to 3 years ago, them not being able to afford that suburb. Buyers are really getting picky on getting themselves as close to the best possible suburbs in this time because, the prices are dictating that.
Okay, and you say that you've been in real estate for the last couple of years. What are some of the big learning curves for you coming into the industry that you've observed and sort of digested and worked your way through? Have there been a couple of things that really stand out?
I think something that was a bit of a difference was the transparency with clients. I'm super transparent, always have been. Before I jumped into real estate, I was doing a lot of training and courses and stuff like that, and it was a bit more talking roundabout ways. In the last 2 years, I think the transparency is really key to just say, this is what's happening in the market. It's always, say it to a vendor, say it's always your call, but I have to give you all the information, and here it is laid out for you. And I found that a lot of people the media's helping, but a lot of people are kind of start to understand that things they're selling at the right price, but those record-breaking prices are probably a thing of the past.
We are talking to Vincent. He is in Melbourne this morning, in the industry for 2 years. When we come back, I want to ask Vincent a couple of tips. If you are thinking about getting involved as an agent, what would his couple of recommendations be starting out in real estate? And we'll also talk about first home buyers and why they're so active in the Melbourne market at the moment. That is next.
From the emotion of property, the economic inflation, managing your expectations, lack of stock, price growth, construction appetite, days on the market. Stay informed with us and know your property. You're listening to the Saturday Property Market Update.
One of the big talking points this week has been the Australian home values posted their largest monthly decline in more than 3 years during June. Sydney and Melbourne led the falls as higher interest rates, tax changes and weaker buyer confidence weighed on demand. Despite the slowdown, economists are still saying that Australia's ongoing housing shortage should help limit deeper price declines. Yes, it is the lack of stock in the housing market that has always been the buffer for the industry prices from going south. Until that changes, don't expect to see big changes in price drops around the country because you will be very, very disappointed. It is a Real Estate Saturday. I hope you've got a great weekend ahead if you are looking at property. Vincent is with us. He's in Melbourne, been in the industry for a couple of years. Vincent, yes, a couple of tips that you can throw people that might be listening this morning thinking of getting involved in the real estate industry. You started out 2 years ago. What would two of those things be? Like, just watch out for this and watch out for that. Think about this, think about that. What would they be?
One is do a lot of research before entering into this type of a job, not just knowing about the suburb that you might be working in, but knowing about all the surrounding suburbs, what is increasing in value, what assets are most in demand, what assets are least in demand, and the change in demographic of those suburbs as well. And then after that, would use that knowledge to have a lot of conversations with a lot of people and expect absolutely nothing in return. If you position yourself as a trusted advisor and know what you're talking about, a lot of the times people won't even think about engaging someone else when they're ready to sell or buy.
Now let's turn the attention to first home buyers, because despite The higher interest rates and softer market sentiment, first home buyers, they really are continuing to compete strongly for well-priced apartments. First home buyers, they're really driving some of Melbourne's strongest performing markets right now. And Jenna, who we talked about at the top there in Brisbane, might be looking at Melbourne but might not be able to move there, which is very frustrating. What are you seeing then, Vincent, in terms of that piece around first home buyers keeping the sold stickers on property?
They are absolutely everywhere right now. It is awesome to see. They've got confidence. They're turning up to auctions with a strut in their stride type of scenario because they just know that they're only really going to be competing with each other. Investors realistically have left the market above $500,000. Under $1 million, first home buyers are everywhere engaged in the market. And in Melbourne in particular, it's a really good time for them. I speak with a bit of experience because I was recently a first home purchaser as well. The lack of investor competition really did help me in my circumstance.
Could you kind of relate to what Jenna was saying? You know, here she is, her and a partner been saving since 18 years of age, you know, hitting that block wall and saying, well, at the moment we're just going to put this on pause because everything is just too difficult.
Look, in a market like Brisbane, it's probably the right call. It's been a market that's increasing so quickly and so rapidly over such a short period of time. Eventually, that will have to stop. It's not possible for that to continue on. If they were to head to a market such as Melbourne, where things have been slowly declining over a number of years, well, it's a much safer long-term kind of purchase. So I do understand the hesitancy in a market that's running so hot.
Agents then are suggesting that Melbourne's ultra premium market above $5 million, that is softened while mid-range family homes is tightly held. There's no doubt that Australia's property market has become this series of smaller markets rather than one big market. Is that how you are seeing and finding the Melbourne property market at the moment?
Absolutely. So I'm from an agency in Brighton, Victoria, which is the second most expensive suburb. And we typically, our median house price is about $4 million. Anything above $3 million at the moment is struggling a little bit and starting to see a bit of retraction in price, while you go to the studio apartment market and they are increasing in price so quickly. This has been driven by a lot of interstate investment at a low price range. Then you've also got above 500, your first home buyers come in and drive those $500,000 to $1 million prices up. The family home market, which is typically your $3 million thereabouts market in my areas, they're typically the most affected by interest rate changes, investment changes as well. Typically a family will have a bit of hesitancy to take on a $2 million loan if they think that interest rates are going to go up another 0.7%.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up there, Vincent. 2 years into the real estate industry after travelling all over the world as a DJ. Enjoy the first home that you've managed to get into, you and your wife, and enjoy the weekend coming up.
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Explore new property destinations where you could live with exclusive interviews covering real estate news and market insights.
Victorian sellers to disclose their auction reserve price 7 days before auction. Boy, this has had a lot of commentary around this.
What the government's trying to do is to improve transparency and address underquoting. The unfortunate way in which they're looking to try and solve the problem is going to force things into areas that are going to be less transparent for buyers. And it's really important to note, Craig, this is not a requirement of agents, even though they're trying to put the responsibility of agents onto the transaction.
With more Australians living in apartments now, are owners' corporations becoming a bigger issue for property buyers to understand?
Absolutely, Craig. We are seeing an increased number of people living in apartments. It is something that we're working closely with the government to ensure we have the right legislative framework to be able to support owners of apartments, whether they rent that out, put it into the rental pool, or own it and live in it.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.